I'll go in with my white powdery chalk, and I'm just gonna again just go along the top here and add some of that dust from, say, concrete dust, rubble dust, anything like that that accumulates. And I just sort of randomly apply this. This is usually the last color I'll apply to these. Okay, so the last section here will be covering the mud splatter and mud streaks. As you guys know, again, these cars get quite a heavy caked on layer of this mud splatter. They get a lot of streaking down the sides from the rubble juice, the garbage juice as I call it. And we're going to try to recreate that. I'm using two colors here. I'm using a skin tone acrylic paint from Americana. It's natural buff. And I got a really good concrete color here, which I recently got. It's pale gray. This works great for this color, and I don't have to keep using my white and mixing it with gray, so it saves a little bit of time, so it's a little bit more efficient there as well. So I'm going to be using these two colors. I'm going to start with the streaks. I'm going to be using a really nice fine tip Atlas brush. This is the number 155, my favorite fine tip brush. You guys can see how sharp that tip is. Works great for this. What I'm going to do is we're going to start with the buff tone to do some of the mud streaks, and I just take a little bit of this paint on the tip of my brush like this. I transfer it to my bowl, and I just kind of very lightly mix it and dilute it with a little bit of water. You can use alcohol, that's fine as well, depending on what you want to use. And then I just add a couple little streaks here and there. They don't have to be perfect. You just add them here and there. And I try to keep these pretty random because these streaks usually are pretty random anyway. But you can see how fine these actually are if you look at them. Just a very soft touch here, pretty much no pressure. The bristles are just gliding across the surface of the so these wheels get a good bit of mud caked onto them at the base of the truck, especially is where you see this. So I'm going to be using my buff tone paint again with a medium Citadel brush like this, and I'm just going to kind of come in here. I'll put my thumb at the base of the wheel to center it, and I'm just going to kind of come up from the bottom of the truck and just kind of streak it up like this. And I'm just going to kind of fan it out. Again, this varies quite a bit, so you can, go as heavy or as light as you like with that. But I just put enough on there to kind of enhance the area. And then I just kind of go along the bottom of the car as well. And again, just add this here and there. Highlight some of these little fuel tank, or not fuel tank, but air piping and air reservoirs, stuff like that. You can kind of enhance with this color as well. But I'm going to do this effect on all the trucks as well. On the top cord here, I'm going to be taking my buff tone paint again, and I'm just going to be dry brushing this on the top cord in certain areas. Represents some more of that streaking, some of that dust and grime kind of caked onto the top cord there. And you can just kind of go along the top there and dust it where you want. I'm kind of basing this on what I saw from those prototype photos of the real car, but again, you can take that and add a little bit more if you want. It's totally your call there. I'm just giving this a light dusting at the top. Next step is the fun part. We get to do some of the mud splatter now, and I'm going to be using my metal straight edge and a large camel hair brush to basically take and scrape the paint onto the sides, basically representing mud splatter. So I'm going to start kind of in these areas where these streaks are. I'm just going to take a pretty heavy layer of this paint, kind of go on like that, and then I'll take another brush, a soft bristle brush like this, to kind of go in and streak these splatters down a little bit, just like rust spots basically. And I'm just going to kind of work these in certain areas. You got to be kind of quick. You want to quickly streak these before the paint starts to dry. Another thing, you can kind of go in varying dilutions of this as well, depending on how much of a streaked effect you want to do. If you want a really dry paint, then just go with a wash, because as soon as the wash hits the sides, it kind of starts to dry on impact. So you can kind of, like I said, vary that as much as you want. But this side's pretty heavy in terms of the streaking, so I'm just going pretty heavy with that. So that looks pretty good. And then while we're doing the streaking, I'm also going to hit up the trucks, but only at the base. I kind of take my paint again. Wrong brush, there we go. Mix a little bit of paint back together here. And I'm just going to take and streak the paint kind of at the base of the wheels. and along the underbody here. Okay, on to the graffiti. This is the last part of the car here, along with some other final little touches which I'll add. But on the graffiti, I'm going to be using a Sakura Jelly Roll pen. These have actually been a revolutionary new step in creating small tags and graffiti for me. These are really handy. These are an ink gel pen, and these work really well, like I said, for these small tags and stuff. These were shown to me by another modeler who I've been following quite a bit, and he uses these and preaches by them. They do really good work, and I've been very impressed with what I've seen. Now, this car does have some very small tags kind of in the corner here and there, and I want to replicate that. So, referring to prototype photos, I just position the tag where I want it to be. So, for example, there's one right here. I'll just go in and just kind of carefully draw that in where I need it. The other one is here in the corner, and it's a relatively larger tag, so I just go in. I'm not really sure what it says. It looks like it says Shepherd or something. So I'm just going in and replicating that here. With these gel pens, you gotta give them a little time. Unlike the acrylic, which dries pretty fast, these take a little bit more time, so you got to be a little bit more patient with them. And then I'll just add, I'll add one more little smaller tag right here, because there is one on the prototype right there. Last little effect I like to do, as you guys know, I weather my safety stripes. I don't like to just leave these clean and blank. They do get weathered up, they do get beat up, and on these C&D cars they get torn off a lot. And what I want to try to kind of replicate is some of the scratching and pitting on that these scratches get. So I like to take a little bit of black acrylic, for example, on a fine tip brush, and I like to go in and just kind of add some little like slices and stuff like that into the stripes. And this is to again replicate some of that chipping and pitting that you see. This is a neat little effect you can do, like I said, though. And it's another one of those things that makes your cars look a lot more realistic as to weather these stripes, because they do get beat up and they do start to chip a little bit over time. So especially on like rustier box cars or stuff like that, think of what time you should add the stripes. For example, if you're putting the final layers of rust and stuff like that on, put the stripes on then, and then weather over them and beat them up. But this is again another one of those key little details that really makes the cars a lot more realistic, because these weather themselves too. So with the final steps completed, we now have a completed model that looks very good and matches the prototype photos very closely. As you can see, everything looks very good. We got the custom load in there, all the weathering and graffiti is done. Another note on these ink pens, you want to let this ink dry for quite a while, so if you're going to do any more washes or anything like that, or weather over graffiti, make sure to let this dry for at least 3 or 4 days, because it takes a little while to harden up, the gel ink anyway. So just another note there. But again, we have a nice completed model now. You guys can see all the details on this. We have all the very nice mud splatter, we have the rust streaks, the pits, the gouges, the beat up car sides, fresh patching, which I like. Got the streaking there, mud splatter. Again, the fresh patches on the ends. All the custom data is added. You guys can see that. Looks good. Looks very good. Bringing the end into focus now, you guys can see all the rust work and weathering. All this came out really nice. You can see that really nice bit of work on these rusty panels with all the gouges standing out thanks to our powder and oil method. My little cutting pad's a bit warped here, so that's why it started rolling like that. There's this end with all the nice details. Looks really good. And then my favorite side, right here. Everything looks really good. But look at that detail. I mean, that looks exquisite. The trucks came out really good. Oops. There we go. Everything just looks spectacular on this model. I'll take this off the tripod. You guys can get a good look at the interior load as well. Very nice. And some final notes on these cars to wrap up this video. They do get a lot of debris scattered over the sides. You see a lot of tarp material. You'll see a lot of that mesh that they use to cover the load up. It'll get spilled over the side. You'll see paper strip. You'll see drywall and shit hanging out of the sides. So it's good to kind of replicate some of this debris that'll hang over and get caught in the ladders. For example, like on the car when I photographed it, it had some of this plastic tarping that was caught in the railings on the ladders, and I modeled that with some plastic wrap that I shredded up, glued in place, and you can see we have some nice, effective, realistic looking tarp spillage. It's the same thing on this side. There's a little bit more. This section happens to be cut on the coupler lift bar. But again, I mean, you can vary that quite a bit. I have a couple of these cars. Some of them get this paper spillage and stuff like that, so you again can model as much of this debris and stuff as you want. I've modeled quite a bit on these cars, as you can see. So that's just another note to kind of take note of, if you will, to add some damage and stuff like that, and some debris. All these little things bring these cars to life. It's a big part of modeling these C&D cars, and that's why I've really gone into a lot of detail to model a lot of this, especially like with the loads, the debris. I really try to make sure I get this as accurate as possible and make it look realistic. So with that, there's another model in the bag, and another one that I've wanted to do for quite some time now. I'm glad I finally got this one out of the way. As you can see, it turned out really good. We were able to match it to the prototype photos pretty accurately, and again, I showed you guys a variety of techniques for modeling cars like this, so hopefully you guys can add this to your bag of tricks and build up on it. Like I said, all these videos, I don't want you guys to necessarily just copy what I'm doing, but I want you guys to look at my techniques, figure them out for yourself, and then build upon them. This is merely video series like this is merely meant to inspire you guys and let you learn techniques, not only learn them, but to, like I said, build on them and I guess adapt them to your own techniques is what I'm trying to say. So hopefully again this was inspiring to you guys. Hopefully you liked it. If you like videos like this, be sure to subscribe. I'll be posting more here pretty soon. The next car we'll be working on is a flat car, and also I have a how-to on how to make these newer C&D loads. I think that'll be really exciting for you guys to see. I think you'll like it. I'm just finishing editing that now, so it should be another couple days before I have that up, but it'll be right behind this video. So again, stay tuned for that. Subscribe here for more. Follow my work on Facebook and Instagram. My Facebook page is Dan's Custom Trains. Daniel Arnold is my name. You guys can follow my work there. I'm always posting model pictures like this and other projects that I'm working on. And Instagram is CoolHeanDan05, all lowercase. You guys can follow me there and subscribe here on YouTube for more. Until next time, guys, take care. Thanks.